X86, or also known as simply the X86 line of products, was a series of CPUs originally created by Intel between the late 70s and all the way up until the early 2000s. Originally, the CPUs were only 16 bits in length when the first predominant CPU models were introduced in 1978 with the Intel 8086 and the 8088. However, in 1982, both the 186 and 188 vastly improved the technology over the others. Eventually, there would be a new version known as the 386 that came out in 1985, which allowed for up to 32-bit programming language to finally be used. With the advent of PC compatibles and IBM clones throughout the 1980s, Intel became the dominant standard with these CPUs, although some manufacturers chose to use AMD's version as well. Eventually, in 1993, the Intel Pentium was released. Although originally in development known as the 586 due to it being part of the fifth era of x86 CPUs, Intel chose to name the service as Pentium in order to avoid any trademark disputes in order to trademark the name. Eventually, there would be versions such as the K5, K6 by AMD, which eventually would change the landscape. However, with the advent of the AMD Athlon in 1999, which introduced the enhanced platform for all transmitters, it eventually became out of place. With the advent of 64-bit CPU transitions in the early 2000s, it effectively slowed the growth of 32-bit hardware. Eventually, by 2003, Windows had introduced its own 64-bit OS. Although there was 64-bit versions as early as 2001, these were proprietary, requiring their own set of instructions. But when AMD released the x86 64-bit instructions in 2003, becoming the first fully backwards compatible 64-bit processor with 32-bit applications, it effectively changed the landscape. By 2010, most computers on the market were coming in 64-bit technology, while laptops continue to use the 32-bit technology, including some low-end computers that were not spec'd up for the 64-bit architecture. Eventually but surely, operating systems began to discontinue their 32-bit versions. Apple was the first to drop support for all 32-bit versions with the ending of Snow Leopard in 2011. Next was Windows, which continued to use 32-bit instructions even in Windows 10 as late as 2015. But at the time with Windows 11 came out in 2021, it became the first 64-bit version, i.e. not a server version of any means, to come only in 64 bits. As such, 32-bit applications still work on Windows 11 due to the instructions of the x86 64-bit technology. However, 32-bit versions will no longer work, and most likely 32-bit CPUs will be unable to boot Windows 11 due to its CPU usage and due to it needing faster RAM.